Hey, welcome to this last update of this year on Archmage Rises. And with me is the super fantastic team at Defiance Games, or whatever I decide to call it in the near future. Is Michael. Why don't you wave, Michael, so they know which one's Michael? And Daniel.
Hey.
And Daniel too.
Woohoo!
Also called D2, also called R2D2. It just gets worse from there. So this is a special update that I wanted to do for everybody to kind of wrap up 2020. It's been a super fantastic 2020. Everybody's had a great time being at home, not being forced to go out and go to family functions, get a lot of video games in. So we had a very crazy adventure from September to December, and just wanted to give kind of a final update, feedback on what happened here for us at Defiance on 2020, so that in January we can go forward to finishing Archmage Rises, which is what everybody cares about. So there's a couple of things that I think came out of our crazy plan. So maybe somebody is just watching this video for the first time and they're like, I don't even know what your crazy plan is. So I'll just kind of bring everybody up to speed. So in the summertime, a friend of mine who owns a game studio in the US said, hey, we have this IP to make video games for Redwall. We need to get a game done by the end of this year. Can I hire your studio and you can come build this game for us, with us, and get it done by the end of the year? And I was like, I kind of got to finish Archmage Rises. I don't really need to finish your Redwall game. And then I was like, well, we'll pay you. And I was like, hey, let's do that. So it really helps with the finances of Defiance in order to take on this contract work. If any of you have played like a game dev simulator or Mad Games Tycoon, you'll see there's an option for contract work on the side in order to get some money in your studio. Well, that happened in real life, and so we said, yeah, okay, let's put Archmage on hold from September to December, and return in January. And so we did it. Yay! We made a game in 3 months, which I don't know if anybody knew we would be able to do that. And so we would like to, for those who are curious, what did you guys build? We are using this opportunity to show you what it is that we've done. And then also, Daniel too will be able to tell you some of the work that he's done on the combat system of Archmage while we were busy working on this Redwall cooking thing. So a couple of kind of off the top things that really happened. Was it easy to make this game in 3 months?
Probably not.
Yeah, it was pretty challenging in order to hit that deadline. We had some late nights, but it wasn't too bad, right? It wasn't like terrible. And so I think one thing that came out of all this is, so number one is we learned how to finish, right? Like we had a hard deadline. We had to be done by the end of this year. And so, we actually set a date of December 1st. We had to be done December 1st because we had to put it into the App Store and a whole bunch of things. So we learned how to finish, how to like get all the features in that we could get in by a set date. The second thing is, I think we learned how to work fast.
That's right.
Yeah.
Michael's not sure.
Well, it worked faster.
Good point. So we've moved from slow to medium. So there was like one day there where we had something like 40 cards in our project management system. We did them all in one day. It was a crazy amount of productivity on certain days. And so I think overall we just learned how to work faster as a team. And so that's really going to help us when it comes to delivering Archmage. The third thing is, I think it was a real baptism by fire. We really like gelled as a team. We had these disparate people that were strangers. And Daniel started here. He worked a little bit of full time, then he went back to school. Michael started here last September. I was basically at school the whole time until April. And then Daniel 2 jumped in, and he's been kind of remote, and he participates in our stand-up meetings and stuff. But anyway, like this idea of like really like working together, and it was a real baptism by fire. And I think that we learned things about working together and how to work together, and you know, when to say something or when not to say something. And I think it helped the team. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I feel like I know the team a lot better.
Working with these people more, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are kind of the quick highlights from this, and I'll have a little bit more to say after we take a look at the game. The Lost Legends of Redwall Feasts and Friends. The internal project name was Redwall Cooking, but obviously you can't release that. And so that's what this thing's called. And so Daniel 2 has not seen this because he only worked in the very early parts of the game, putting in the analytics that we would need. This is a mobile game, if I hadn't already said that. So it's a mobile game. It's going to be for iPhone initially, then Android, then tablets, but initially getting it out to iOS. So this is the game. Here we go. We're going to go into story mode. I turned off the tutorial.
Yeah, oh, man, looks pretty already.
Yeah, so I will state that we were hired in order to do the programming, and I would also say design. We didn't do any of the art. Soma took care of the artwork. Okay, so here we go into story mode. So what's happening here is an interesting piece of tech, I think, something that I wanted to implement in Archmage and hadn't got to yet, which is the idea to have both scripted and unscripted stories, and to proceduralize the missions. So in this cooking game, you're cooking for characters that live in a certain zone of the Redwall world, and you'll see that in a second. I'll show you the map. And so we want to have specific stories that happen in certain zones, but we also need the player to be able to cook over and over and over again in a zone. And there are a number of characters to each zone, and by cooking well for someone, they'll introduce you to their friends. And then when you discover all of the characters in that zone, then you're like ready to move on to the next zone. So there's a bit of a Pokemon catch-em-all kind of approach. So as the game builder, designer making this thing, I don't actually know what mission I'm going to get. What it does is it grabs a mission, it grabs characters, and it casts them into roles within the mission. And that is a technology that I actually worked on in the first year of Archmage Rises, never finished. And then I was able to put it into here and try it out. So conceptually, it works, and we can put it into Archmage. What's also kind of funny is that there is a ton of Archmage code in this game. So while Soma hired us in order to build this game, they're like paying us hourly or whatever, they got like hundreds of hours of code for free because it was just easier to just grab what we already had and throw it in than to try and do it from scratch. So here we have a dialogue system, and so it grabbed this person, and so there's a narrator saying something. Now he's saying something, and then this is your character Rootsworth. That's who you play as, and so he responds, and so now we're cooking. We're about to cook, and so here we are choosing from the recipes that we already know. And because I'm playing a game dev build, I already have like a whole bunch of recipes. If I was starting from the beginning, I would only have one recipe that I know. And so anything to say about the screen, any challenges that you overcame for this?
For this screen, getting all the recipes to properly show, and like having them ordered like by difficulty so that the easier ones are at the top and stuff like that. Yeah, you see
there's a spelling error here already. I had to make a tool that allowed us to create these recipes and associate ingredients and what the steps are. I'll also say that this may not be clear, but we actually created a cooking simulator. So these recipes, if you look at other cooking games, they are very like static assembly games. So it's like, hey, you're making nachos. You have to put down the nachos thing first. Then you put down the sour cream thing. Then you put down the diced onions or tomatoes or whatever. And you have to do it in this order. And that's the only way they know that you finished, is that you did 1, 2, 3, and you did it only with those ingredients. This is an actual cooking game because I'm an actual cook. I'm a foodie, and I was like, hey, what if we made this like a simulator where we actually cook and transfer heat to ingredients, and different ingredients cook at different lengths of time, and when you put rosemary into a pan and you heat it, it unlocks additional flavors once you reach this certain threshold. And garlic is an aromatic, and when you drop it in a pan, it's really strong, but as you cook it, the flavor goes down. What if we were able to recreate all of these ingredients and let the player make their own dishes? And so that's what this is. This is the world's first real mobile cooking game where you can chop, cook, make your own recipes, and do it all for real. What I'm going to show you is very small, because we only built the first part of the game, so you can't really get into all that the simulator is capable of doing. But that was the big challenge on this game, was to not have this assembly line approach to cooking, but to have the freedom that you would have in actually cooking in a kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have anything to add to that?
Not that I can
We're
think
going to
of.
fried parsnips like always.
Yeah, fried parsnips. That's our favorite recipe. That's one we always test with because it's so easy. Okay, so I click fried parsnips. It checks our inventory and says, okay, you have these ingredients. None of them are missing. So are you sure? Yes, this is what we're going to make. And so the recipe guides you through the steps that you need to do. And so here we are on the chopping screen. Michael, you want to say something about the chopping?
Yep. Well, this is a screen that went through lots of different iterations, lots of different ways of approaching. You start off very freeform, like Thomas was talking. You can do anything you want. And after feedback from people who weren't actually paying for the game, we decided it is going to be more assembly-like. So you can only chop it in the way it requires, and they turn into like little mini games where you have a slicing one where you have to slice at the right time, or the right spot. When you have a chopping one where you have to hit the right time slot, and then you have a peeling one, which was quite a bit of a challenge
I'll
to get
show
the
the
stuff to
different
peel
ones.
away. Okay.
So we have real chopping, just like Fruit Ninja. Was that hard?
Not too much, thanks to the wonderfulness of the asset store. It's always interesting to take an asset and see how well it works, but for the most part, the asset did most of the heavy lifting, and only needed a little bit of work to actually get it integrated, which was nice.
He's being modest, everybody. Okay, so now that we've finished chopping up the parsnips, the next step is to start cooking. And so here we have our pan, and we can adjust the temperature. We can measure thing in H's, heat. And so we did make something that replicated cooking with wood and with fire. So you would put logs on, and then it would like heat up, and then over time it would like burn down and get cooler and stuff. We didn't have time to make that really good, so now you just go in here and you just move it up and down. But anyways, it's still behind the scenes there. So now we're going to pour in some oil, and hopefully you can see the oil come in. So Daniel, was it hard to get these liquids working?
Yeah, it was a lot of tweaking, getting the particle system to make it look like water's falling out of the bowl, of the, bottle, and having that appear for, then having like a splash effect where your water's hitting, and then having the liquid paint in the pan grow and make it all nice, and having it this color of the liquid that you want. And yeah, I think it ended up pretty good though in the end.
Looks like oil in a pan to me. There's a heat shimmer in here, but you can't really see it. So now we're going to take our sliced things, and these slices look like little coins. And so it's a full physics system. Like I said, all the cooking is real, and because it's touching the pan, it's cooking. The piece is cooking, and so if I leave it here for a little bit, they'll start to burn. And over on the side, we're showing the thing starts off raw, and then very quickly it becomes in a cooked thing. But then there's this thing called perfectly cooked, and that's the goal of the game, is to have ingredients perfectly cooked. So now they're perfectly cooked, and they're starting to burn. Oh, and so D2, I don't know if you're there, but you had to create a shader for this this burning. What was that like?
Yes. So that was a very interesting experience. I had a quick idea of what that might look like, and the words edge detection came to my mind, and then I kind of did a lot of Googling, and then basically got, let's just say it's long story short in terms of how it transfers to Archmage, learned a lot about what you could do with shader graph, and that's going to be very helpful, especially when we're working on spell effects in Archmage. But yeah, so had to basically figure out how to create an edge detection shader in shader graph, and that was fun actually. I found it very fun.
So this is what happens in real life. You start talking to somebody, you forget about the stuff that's on the in the pan, and it starts burning on you. And so we gotta get these things anyway. So this thing's all overcooked. It's completely terrible, but that's okay. We'll still serve it. So now here's the plating screen, and the plating screen is where you have your last chance to like garnish and decorate. There's not a lot of choice here right now, so we just take what we've cooked, and I'm gonna put it out on the plate where you garnish your dish. And so you take what you've cooked, which looks completely terrible, these black coins, and then when we have things like parsley and stuff, you can drop it on the plate. And so what were the challenges with this?
With here, getting it to drop in the right spot, knowing which height to drop it from, and if you click on your inventory, you can put it back and re-drop it and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yep. So yeah, getting all that type of stuff to work.
It was also annoying for serialization. We were just pulling the game objects over, so just all this sort of Unity-specific stuff that we weren't saving anywhere. We don't want to save all the stuff off. So we had to go figure out what was the temperature of it, what was the value set in the shader, so we could then recreate it if you were to save before this point, leave, and come back, so you could actually continue the game without needing to save all the stuff that you normally would.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. A big challenge on mobile is you never know when the player's just going to disappear on you and just take off. And what I mean by that is you're playing the game and you get a text come through and you're like, oh, I got to go deal with that text. And then you start web surfing, then you start watching YouTube, and then the OS kills the process, and we have to like know where were you, so when you launch the game we can get you right back to this point. And so not just remembering what stage you're at, but where these ingredients are, like the stage that they're cooked at, and where they are on a plate and such is a big challenge. Okay, so now that we've put our stuff on a plate, and it is possible to have different plates. That's something that you can unlock and buy later, is like different bowls. And when you have different bowls and silverware, then you get bonuses to your presentation, right? So right now it's just on a wooden plate, but what if I put it in like a silver jewel-studded bowl, right? Then that would be like more impressive. And so that brings us to the next step. So this is all procedural, and this is where we used a bunch of the dialogue systems from Archmage. So the character that we cooked for is going through and responding procedurally to how we did it. And like, he doesn't like olive oil, for instance, so I don't like his fried parsnips. I'll be more careful next time. So your roots with character is responding to, oh, I got experience points and I leveled up. And this leveling system, was there any challenges involved with this?
Yeah, getting it, all the like architecture of it set up. Getting it. Yeah, it's a good experience though for Archmage for understanding level systems and stuff. Yeah.
We're gonna put loot boxes into Archmage now that we know how to do it.
Woohoo!
So here's the info on the ingredients that you got that tells you like how easy it is to cook with and the kind of slices and stuff you can do with it. And then we earned a new recipe. Okay. So the character, so this scoring screen, the character is evaluating it along these 4 different, the 4 different approaches to the dish. So temperature is like how well you cook the ingredients. I cook them really poorly, even though I got a C in it. And then, so the character that got cast into the role will say something about that. They will respond to this particular scoring, and then there's a chance that Rootsworth will respond to what the person said. And so being able to create these dialogue systems, not knowing which piece of dialogue is actually going to be selected and making it all work smoothly and hopefully in something that looks like an actual conversation, was quite a design challenge and a bit of a data challenge as well. But now that we've figured it out, we can apply that to Archmage. Actually, a lot of the code came from Archmage. And so I did really poorly. Overall, I got an F on this thing. So you have to score well in order for them to give you certain rewards. They'll leave you gifts. Also to introduce you to other characters in the Redwall world. So you got to keep working and cooking for this guy until you please him enough and he'll introduce you to someone. And so, Michael, were there some challenges with this scoring screen?
It helps if we figured out what we were doing first time around. Took 3 or 4 iterations to go through, and pretty much all of us were touching the screen at one point, so we sort of trumped in each other's shoes a little bit. But I'm happy with the way it turned out. We're able to reuse a lot of the stuff from the old versions that we were using, and so the dialogue system we can pull from Archmage, the event system we're able to pull from Archmage, and lots of cool.
The first scoring screen took 40 hours to make. And then we're like, this is no good. So then we designed up through storyboarding with an artist, Joel. We came up with a new version of the score screen, and that took another 40 hours to make. And then it just didn't feel intimate enough. We had 3 pillars to this game. The first was it needs to feel like a real cooking game, like you're actually in a kitchen cooking, right? It's not an assembly game. Like I said earlier, so it has to feel like you're in a kitchen. Second thing is, it needs to be about the characters. The idea is someone's coming to your home for supper or lunch or breakfast, and you're hosting someone. So it needs to have that feel. You're not running a store, a cafeteria, a restaurant. It has to have that intimacy. And the third thing is, it needs to feel Redwall. I need to feel like, hey, these are the characters I know and love from the books. That I'm getting to know them and such. And so we just felt like the scoring screen, the first and second iteration didn't have that third part of Redwall, like really getting to know the people. And so then we came up with a third version, which is the one that you see here, where they comment on the 4 factors of scoring. And you get to see the character. Initially, you didn't see the character. You get to see your character, and you see them having a conversation about the dish. And we think that's hitting it's a Redwall experience. And then, from what I remember of the time reports, the final iteration, what you see right here, only took 12 hours. So it's too bad we spent 80 hours on score screens that didn't make the final cut. But hopefully, the 12 hours was because of the 80 hours.
Yeah, there's definitely stuff we could pull, but then there are other things which were just hard to do and turned out to not be the best way to do it. Sometimes simple is better.
Yeah. Okay, so finish this. And so now that I finished that mission, it's gone and selected a new mission, and I go right into that. And I'm going to get out of this and go into the merchant is restocked. That's good.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm going to go into free play mode. And so in free play mode, you are able to create whatever you want. And we have 3 different stations in the kitchen: the fry pan, the cauldron, and a mixing bowl. And so we need to know what kind of thing are you going to try and make. Let's make a soup. So we'll go into custom cauldron here. And now I have my pantry, and we have ingredients by the different types. And by the way, we're going to take all this cooking technology, we'll just put it all into Archmage. So when you go to cook something in Archmage, this whole thing will pop up and you can start making. I'm just kidding.
That'd be quite an Easter egg.
Yeah, that would be an Easter egg. Hey, look, there's this whole cooking mini game in here. Okay, so I'm going to make something. I'm going to drag out this fish. I love chopping up this fish. It just makes me feel real nice. So here's the fish, and there's different ways of cutting it. So we've already seen the slicing, so I'm going to do the chop, which is a different mini game. And Michael, you want to say something about this?
The more I work with 3D physics, the more I hate Unity's physics engine. But apart from that, it's just a lot of fiddling around and tweaking values to get it to feel better.
Okay. So here's the baton. And first we have to peel the carrot. Look at that. That's so cool.
Wow, I love that.
Look at that. It's like I'm in the kitchen peeling carrots. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm definitely impressed with the way this one turned out.
And then there's
I
the
love how it
batoner.
works. And I...
Why don't you tell us about the batoner?
Well, that's another one that kept on taking lots and lots of iterations. But, not actually
As long as
certain
you're,
what to say.
like, very
about the
upbeat.
batoner.
Oh, that's so satisfying.
So one of the things we discovered in the chopping was super boring, and it was just not engaging at all. It was just something tedious you had to get through, and so we made these mini games. So each kind of cut that you do to an ingredient is its own mini game, and once we did that, it felt like a whole heck of a lot better. So here's this awesome thing, because we're like, how do you baton something in 3D with very imprecise finger movements in order to cut? That's a big difference between working on a console or mouse and keyboard based game on a computer and a mobile screen, is that your finger's taking up at least 20% of the screen whenever you like jam it down on there. And so we came up with this idea of this batoner, and we can grab this thing and put it through, and then you get your batons. Okay, so now that we're done chopping, here's our awesome cauldron.
Yeah.
You get all the ingredients in here.
Yeah.
Anything to say about the cauldron?
Here we got a bit of a bubble type effect. 2D bubbles appearing and making it look like it's boiling. Then we got a bit of a Unity's physics system, making it feel like water with it. It's like a slippery surface that it can like float around and stuff. And yeah.
Hey, that's clever.
Yep. Once it goes long enough, it like starts to have like steam pop up whenever it starts burning and stuff.
So what I'm trying to do is get all of these ingredients into the blue zone, the perfect zone, and now here we have a bowl, and look, we filled it up with liquid.
Yep.
All right, and now we're putting all of the ingredients in, and now we have a beautiful, beautiful trout soup with beets and apples. This thing's gonna be delicious. They're gonna love it. We'll see how he feels. Ooh, he likes the apple.
Mm.
Oh, I like how you respond. I just noticed the little banter going on there.
Yeah, something to mention with the characters here, with whenever they're commenting on like an ingredient and stuff, they're commenting on they all got preferences on which ingredients they like, which recipes and stuff like that. So they're commenting based on that type of information.
Yeah, can we even see that? Yeah. Yeah, here they are. So these are the characters that we know, that we unlock through the story mode, and we can see their likes, their dislikes, and their favorite dish. And so we cook for them and try to discover these things as we go along. And so in this region, there are 6 characters. We only know 2 of them right now. Okay, so here is the foraging screen. So how do we get all these ingredients? There's 2 ways that we get these ingredients. Well, I have 3 if you include the gift boxes that the guests leave behind. But the primary way is through foraging and through the merchant. So this is the foraging screen, and how do you use the foraging screen? Well, there's these locations in the Redwall world that you would be familiar with. So Camp Silver Sands, and it is known for its parsnips and its carrots. And so I can quickly assign somebody to go there, and they go off and they start foraging. And then down here we have onions, potatoes, and beets, and I can assign a specific person that's available. And so these take a certain amount of time, not like a ton of time. I mean, as you can see here, I mean, it's only 36 seconds. This is to create engagement over the course kind of a day. So you send someone off and they're foraging, and maybe it takes them 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So it's a reason to come back, but not so long that you can continue to keep playing the game. That was very important to me in terms of design, that we don't give you a reason to stop playing. But if you do stop playing, then you do get a notification to say, like, hey, your stuff is back. So once he's returned, I can click on him and he's come back with the carrots, 6 carrots. So that's how I get stuff, is by going out and foraging for it. So Michael, do you want to talk about some of the interesting challenges with doing all this foraging?
Sure. The biggest challenge to me is the one I didn't do, is all that Fog of War stuff. That's all Daniel. But things that I liked was getting the foragers to move around on the screen. So they're not just going in a straight line. They'll go with a little bit of jitter, so they'll move back and forth like a person would. And add a lot of customization to that, so we could have them go in circles or in different things if we wanted to have them wander around a bit more. And so it was fun to sort of set that up. And then Daniel threw me in for a loop when he was like, well, now we need to make it so we can stop and save it in the middle anywhere and need to continue with a real time rather than using just the time since the game started. And then it was nice to just be able to find out that, oh, that was just a quick little fix where I had to go through and change out the times because it was all designed to work nicely.
So something additional that may not be clear is that each one of these foragers that you have, they have skills, and so they have a speed and a strength and a luck. And do you want to tell us how those work?
Yeah, so speed just reduces the amount of time it takes you to get somewhere. Strength is related to how many things you can carry back, so the stronger you are, the more you can get. And luck increases the rarity, but you can grab cooler stuff out of the stuff you're grabbing. So there's just a slight chance that you get a better roll with higher luck characters. You also have those specialties there, where if you have increased specialty in grains or increased specialties with not tubers, but like if you can have different categories of ingredients. It makes that if you're going somewhere which has that ingredient, you will probably come back with more of that if you have those specialties.
Yeah, so it's
But those are on each character. You level them up. A forager will gain experience when they bring stuff back, and so that all sort of happens underneath the hood. And it's sort of fun.
I don't know how many times I have to send them out in order to get a level
It's
up.
about 2 or 3 for the first level.
Okay. So yeah, it's a small role-playing kind of element to this, the leveling up your characters. They get specific skills, so there becomes a reason to send, like, I'm going to send this person to the forest getting mushrooms and honey because this person is really good at getting mushrooms and honey, or they're very lucky, so they're more likely to come back with higher value items. So these all take place in the background, and I don't know, there might be some things that we can use for this. The ability to have people that work for you in Archmage and send them off on quests and have them retrieve ingredients and stuff for you. I don't know exactly what we'll do with that. But anyways, it's working in the background as we go. And so here's the other side, which is the merchant, where you can buy and sell all the ingredients. So we have them categorized just like when you're cooking with them, and then they cost a certain amount of money. The merchant has only certain ingredients, only so much of each ingredient, and so once I buy out all the lettuce, then he doesn't have lettuce until he restocks, and that restock thing is every hour right now, but configurable. So so then there's ways in order to get money in the game, particularly like cooking well for someone. They'll leave you a gift of some money, which I don't know if you have people over to your house for Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner and you do a good job, they leave you money on the table. Is that like a thing for your family?
Not that I know of yet.
Well, maybe this cooking game can introduce it to the whole world.
Yeah.
So that is kind of, a slice of the cooking game to see what the heck did we do. We did it. It works. It's going into the, I believe, New Zealand App Store. So if you are in New Zealand, you'll be able to get this in the App Store. And the game is going to continue to be worked on in the new year. Maybe by us, probably not by us. Depends on how much help Soma requires. But that is the cooking game. Okay, so any final comments on the cooking game?
It looks great.
Yeah, thanks. Was it fun to work on?
Yeah, it was fun to work on
Good
something
to have
new.
a break.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a nice break from Archmage and the hardcore role-playing simulator that Archmage is. So we ended up making a cooking simulator with role-playing elements. Oh well. Okay. So while we were working on the cooking game, Daniel too was busily, quietly working away on Archmage Rises combat. So D2, why don't you give us a rundown on what you were able to do?
Okay, my original ambition was to finish combat all by myself. That was it didn't happen, but they say shoot for the stars, you land on the moon. So I think I landed halfway between the moon and the Earth. But basically, I'd say I did a lot of the main things I worked on were the spells and the ground effects. And the ground effects were, the elemental effects of you have fire, and then you add water, the fire gets turned into like vapor. And like all those kind of interactions was surprisingly more complicated than we had estimated. So that took a lot of my time, and then on top of that, I worked on a whole bunch of spells, and I tried to, instead of covering every single spell, I tried to cover a variety of spells so that, I could, every kind of new kind of spell might introduce something that might, be a good learning opportunity, so that we're prepared, so that when we all come together, finishing up the spells would be a lot easier. Probably the most interesting spell that I worked on would be the polymorph spell. So that's actually ready to rumble. The spells mechanics are working, but the visuals are pretty bad. The programmer art, so that's something that we'll be working on as well in the new year. But yeah, so it was fun, kind of doing my working by myself, sneakily on a bunch of Archmage combat features. Learned a lot and look forward to sharing all that with the wider team. And we look forward to finishing it up in the new year at some point, right, Thomas?
Yeah. So how many spells did you work on? Do you know?
Oh, 10 to 15, I think. It was quite a lot of them, actually.
Yeah, so that's great. So while we were busy making a cooking game, Daniel put 15 new spells into the game, combat-oriented spells. So that's great. I forget how many exactly we needed to get in. I don't know, 25 spells or something. So anyways, you got a lot of them added to the game. Like you said, mechanically, they're added to the game. Now we have to get the visuals to kind of catch up with that.
That's right.
So that's great. So we had this plan of the three of us would go off and work on it while you would continue working on the combat, and it happened just as we planned. So that's great. Okay, so going into 2021 in January, and the January update will go more into this, but I just want to tell you, working on this cooking game for these months, a couple of things have come out of that. The first thing is I really miss working on Archmage, and so very much looking forward to that. So what I mean by that is when I'm in the shower or driving or whatever, what am I thinking of? I'm thinking about Archmage Rises. I'm thinking about this is what we should do, this is not what we should do, or this is how we should do that, and it's just a flood of this information coming in, and I, for the last 3 months, I've been able nope, can't do it, can't get to that, and now I get to finally work on it again. So very excited. I think we're all excited to work on Archmage. Is that right?
Yeah, it's nice to have a change of pace.
Yeah. So I am in what I would call a release mindset, and what does that mean? That means that having gone through this 12-week process of we have to get a game into the store in 12 weeks. and we're not even really sure what the game is, but let's build it and get it done. I'm taking that mindset into Archmage, and there's a saying in Silicon Valley that I think is attributed to Facebook, which is done is better than perfect. And so I would say for the last 6 years, perfect is better than done has been my thinking. And now I'm very much like done is better than perfect. So now, usually, we've all just witnessed this 2077 cyberpunk game that has caused refunds at Sony and a class action suit and like all kinds of stuff. Okay, clearly that game needed some more time, right? They did not need to rush that thing out in December. But anyway, usually as fans, we are like, oh, I want them to take their time. I want them to, be perfect and whatever. But you also, you want to play the thing. And so as a designer, to get into the mindset of like, okay, I'm not going to be able to get everything that's in my head into this game. I believe there will be a sequel. I hope. We'll see what sales are from the first one. And so getting it done rather than making it perfect to the nth degree is way more important. For everybody who's watching this video, I'm pretty sure you want a complete game that is fun, rather than watching another 3 years of videos as we toil away on making the perfect game. So done is better than perfect. That is the mindset that I'm bringing into 2021 and some of the decisions that we're making. The second thing is to really support that is to be time driven. So we have 2021. When are we going to release the game? People just asked recently on the YouTube, hey, when is this game releasing? I'm like, hey, as soon as I know, you'll know. So I have not gone through the proper planning process in order to figure out what that is. But let's just say right now, hypothetically, we're going to be done in 2021, right? So we have 12 months in which to get this game done. So what does that look like for each one of the builds that we have to get out? Well, we have to finish the combat build. So how much time can we allow for the combat build? How much time can we allow for the world build? How much time can we allow for, I don't know, balancing, testing period at the end? So divvying up the year by time rather than making the schedule by feature. Okay, so that is the mindset that I'm bringing into the game now, is to be time focused rather than feature focused. A great example in the cooking game, totally wanted to get an oven in there. Totally wanted to get an oven. It was part of the initial design, and we just never got to it. We just never got to the thing. And it was really important because when we went through all the Redwall recipes, I think almost half of them used the oven. They were like different biscuits and breads and like all these things. And there's all this functionality all driven by the oven. And we just didn't have time to get the oven in. Now, playing the game, would you even know that there was an oven that's not there? No, you don't know there's an oven that's not there, right? So can we make the game good and fun with like the bit that we have? For the time that we had, we got a cauldron, a mixing bowl, a frying pan, and a chopping board. Those are the 4 things we were able to get into the 12-week build period. So that's the approach with Archmage. It's like, we only have this much time. So getting all these new monsters or these new spells, whatever, this is how much time we have. So how many of them can we actually get in? And there's going to be ovens, which is, the darlings that I wish would get in but didn't. And maybe those are in an update or whatever, saved for a sequel or something. But to be time driven. There's a running joke at Defiance that the last game Thomas has played is how Archmage is designed. So I was playing State of Decay 2. I'm like, holy cow, this thing's amazing. This is like totally what we should do for Archmage Rises. And then with this Christmas break that we've taken, I just played through, I mean, not 100%, but I played through Fallout 4, and I'm like, holy cow, this is exactly what Archmage is supposed to be. And now I'm playing Skyrim VR, and I'm like, holy cow, this is exactly what Archmage is supposed to be. And so what I'm trying to say with this is I am studying these games, apparently Bethesda games, specifically Fallout 4 and Archmage and Skyrim, what I've noticed, especially like in Fallout 4, is they have this like really simplistic base building mechanic in the game. And I know that if we were having an internal design meeting, we were talking about that base building mechanic, I'd be like, there's not enough here. There's just not enough. Like, why would anybody do this? It's not really all that fun. It doesn't seem to be very fun or whatever. It's very, very simple and straightforward. But in the game, it's really good. I think it's great, and it really delivers on the experience. And so you have this feeling of building up these settlements, and it's not overly complicated and whatever. And so that was a real kind of aha moment for me, was like, Archmage is about the sum of its parts. It's not about any one individual feature is like so super amazing and super detailed and complex that I really need to streamline and make multiple simple things together to be really fun, just like Fallout and Skyrim did. And so there's a bunch of ideas coming from that. The one thing I'll just throw out is Fallout 4's weapon modification system, like how you have a gun, then you can put like a different muzzle on it and different reload and different sights and whatever. You take this one gun. I took it all the way through the end of the game. Like, I just kept modifying this one gun. And so, yes, there were like, I'd shoot bad guys and they would drop guns, and I'd just sell them all or scrap them. And I was just like honing and perfecting this one gun through their weapon crafting system. It's a very simple system. You have the ingredients and you can choose the option. Sometimes you need perks, like you need to be gun nut level 2 or something to be able to do that thing. But it was very clear, like, oh, I need gun nut level 2 in order to increase the damage of my gun. Great, I'm going to go work towards that and then come back to it. And I just think that's a great model for how the enchanting system should be. That's how I want the mage in Archmage to be. With you have your staff and your robe and a ring or something, and you're working on it, improving it, and you're not throwing it away and grabbing another one like in Diablo or the other action RPGs. That you're like perfecting this thing. And so that's just one example where like I'm playing the game and going, that's it. That's how it needs to be in Archmage. And I'm sure everybody is very concerned. They're like, oh man, what are all these features that we have to build from Fallout? Another thing from Fallout, just as an aside, is they have this whole scrapping mechanic. So like you get these guns and armor or whatever, and you hit the X button, at least on my controller, you hit the X button, and then it scraps them and turns them into like basic components. That's like the grinder that we put into Archmage. So that you find things in the world like bodies or whatever, and you chuck them through the grinder, and then you get these ingredients that you can then craft things from. And so I thought that was really funny. Okay, so I just want to say that this is a good team. I've worked with them hard for the last couple of months, and I'm very proud of the work that we've been able to do together, and happy to be working with these guys. It was just 2 years ago I didn't have a team at all, and now we have a team, and I'm excited for the new year and to put this team to the test and get on the business of releasing Archmage. And so that leads into next update, which is when I'll do kind of a full plan and financial breakdown of where Archmage is at, kind of a state of the union for 2021. And so, yeah, I'm excited. So we'll see that probably mid-January, because we have to get going on, I guess, January 4th. We have to get the ball rolling again on Archmage. We're like, where's the code? Where is this? We gotta get used to it again. Any parting thoughts?
Have a lot of fun working through the mess that I created, so that should keep you busy.
Parting thoughts, Michael?
I'm looking forward to getting back into Archmage. Like I said, it was good to take a break from Archmage and try out new things and worry about mobile issues. But the more we've spent there, the more I'm like, yeah, I want to get back into designing combat and creating cool NPCs and all the fun stuff we have in Archmage that we've been holding off on for 3 months. It's time to get back to it.
Daniel?
Yeah, similar to Michael, that it was nice to have a refreshing change of tastes, and now getting back to Archmage should be fun. Using some of the experience with the particle systems to make spells and stuff should be really interesting now.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you guys, and enjoy your New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and such. Have a happy New Year, and we'll see you in January.
Yeah, see ya.
Yeah, see you, everyone.
Yeah.